If you were on beauty TikTok in 2020, you probably remember the launch of Morphe 2, which was a fresh, dewy, Gen Z friendly spin on the ultra glam brand that was Morphe. Like, we're talking 2010s glam. With TikTok royalty Charli and Dixie D'Amelio as the faces of the campaign, Morphe 2 seems set to take the beauty world by storm, just like sister brand Morphe has done in the previous years. But for some reason, Morphe 2's promise of lightweight, natural makeup and simple but effective skincare just didn't catch on. It just didn't capture the imagination of consumers in the same way that Morphe had done with their plethora of influencer collabs. Today, I want to talk about what led to Morphe 2's creation in the first place, why it wasn't the hit it was supposed to be, and how that impacted both the original brand and their parent company, leading to pretty devastating consequences for the brand and everyone involved, basically. So before we get into Morphe 2, we need to talk a little bit about Morphe 1, the original Morphe. You're probably all gonna know this stuff, but just a very quick rundown of who they are, what they became, and what led to Morphe 2. When it was first founded in 2008, all the brand sold was makeup brushes, and it stayed that way for years, but when they decided to expand into makeup in 2013, it didn't take that long for Morphe to establish itself as one of the most popular brands of the late 2010s, especially online. And Morphe managed this rapid growth by relying almost entirely on influencer marketing. They partnered with such a wide range of influencers offering discount codes. This was really the first time we were seeing YouTubers use affiliate marketing, but they mainly used discount codes that they could offer their followers. Later, they collaborated more closely with some of the biggest names in YouTube at the time, including names like James Charles, Jeffree Star, and Jaclyn Hill. It was these partnerships that really helped make the brand so popular, but linking their brand to these names didn't really end so well. Because of the way Morphe had chosen to market themselves, they were huge online, massive online, particularly on YouTube and Reddit, where fans of the influencers they collaborated with spent time, but outside of that space, they were still fairly unknown. This strategy actually worked really, really well for them in the short term, but it was a risky move, and people were fans of the YouTubers really, and not the brands themselves. Like, outside of being their YouTubers' favorites, no one really cared about Morphe. So when both James Charles and Jeffree Star faced major controversies, the brand suffered massively. They cut ties with both the controversial creators in the space of less than a year, and it had a big impact on the brand's sales. Their own products weren't something most consumers were even aware of. People had come to the brand to buy their influencers' collaborations, but they didn't stick around to find out what Morphe was selling on their own. Now, it didn't help matters that around the time they were having all these issues with their collaborators, Morphe also had to deal with the fact that the beauty industry was shifting to a subtler, no makeup look, your skin but better kind of look. Instead of the heavier, more elaborate makeup looks that have been popular on YouTube. And this shift was very quickly sped up by the pandemic, which really slowed down makeup sales as people weren't going out as often. So the focus shifted from makeup to skincare for pretty much all beauty enthusiasts. So in an attempt to keep up with the changing trends in the beauty world, Morphe launched Morphe 2 in July of 2020. Morphe 2 would be a sub-brand of Morphe, and it was aimed at catering to a younger market who preferred that natural, minimal look we were talking about. We were basically moving away from millennial glam makeup to Gen Z subtleness. Morphe, the brand, decided to stick with the same marketing strategy again, as using influencers, very popular influencers, but this time they approached TikTok stars as their collaborators. So Morphe 2 brought on Charli D'Amelio, who at the time had the most followed account on TikTok, and brought on her sister Dixie D'Amelio to be the faces of the new brand. At first, Morphe 2 was purely a makeup brand, just with a different aesthetic than the original Morphe brand, but at the end of 2020, they made their first real foray into the skincare market, launching the Morphe 2 skincare line. Morphe had actually previously launched several skincare adjacent products over the year under the main Morphe brand, but these are more skincare, more makeup prep products, right? Rather than functioning on amazing actives, how these products can transform your skin. It was purely for makeup prep. For example, their continuous setting mist was a pretty popular setting spray to help lock in makeup. It was hydrating, and they had the equalizer and the revitalizer foundation primers, which were kind of mainly primers with a bit of hydration in them. And they had lip scrubs and masks as well. They would periodically offer various lip treatments as part of a special collection or as collaborations designed to prep your lips before makeup application. But these weren't solidified skincare routine products. And these earlier attempts were kind of met with mixed reviews. Some customers really appreciated the affordability and simplicity of the products, but most were left underwhelmed, feeling like the products lacked any kind of innovation or anything that made them stand out from similar products on the market. It wasn't enough for something to just be affordable and good when you have the Ordinary and the Inky list, so this was nothing special at the time. Morphe weren't deterred though. They still wanted to cash in on this growing popularity of skincare, so they launched their first proper skincare line at the end of 2020. And like Morphe 2's makeup line, their skincare line was also targeted at a younger audience. The products for the new line were apparently formulated with clean, effective, vegan-friendly, and cruelty-free ingredients. They said that this collection was designed to simplify your skincare routine whilst providing effective results. Affordable and effective, you can't really go wrong, right? Notable products from the line included their bubbly, fresh gel to foam cleanser, which was a cleanser that starts as a gel, transforms into a foam, a cleanser, claiming to effectively cleanse your face without stripping moisture, with some nice ingredients in like aloe vera water and blue-green algae. They had their Restart Detox face mask, which looking at it was already a really outdated face mask even back then. This was a detoxifying mask aimed at purifying the skin. It was a holographic lavender peel-off mask that relies on activated charcoal and willow bark extract. Bearing in mind, they were launching this when Glam Glow, who were the poster child of gimmicky peel-off masks, when their sales were declining and they were being pulled off the shelves in various countries. This was, in my opinion, a very outdated product already. They had their Total Softy Gel Moisturizer, which was a lightweight gel moisturizer designed to hydrate and nourish the skin, infused with hyaluronic acid, cucumber water, and aloe vera extract again. They had their little pick-me-up 3-in-1 face mist, which was a face mist that claimed to hydrate the skin, set makeup, and refresh the skin throughout the day. Again, containing aloe vera extract, cucumber water, along with orange flower water. They had their Lippy Lullaby Lip Mask, which is a lip mask designed to soften and hydrate the lips, but relying on squalane and muru muru butter, as well as AHA-rich hibiscus flower extract for gentle exfoliation. Honestly, that's one of the only products out of all their products there that sounds kind of interesting to me. A member of Morphe 2's product development team said in an interview at their launch that we included a mix of trending ingredients and heroes that are packed with benefits and easily recognizable. We made sure to include trending ingredients in the skincare category, along with well-known, tried and true ingredients. And this quote was probably a good sign of how Morphe 2 was approaching this whole thing. They seemed less concerned about the quality and the efficacy of their products, and more concerned about including what was trending when it came to ingredients and what would catch the consumer's attention, what could go viral on TikTok. Much like their previous marketing strategy, they were all about hype over substance, and it was not a strategy that would do well for them in the long run. Despite the initial hype surrounding Morphe 2, it wasn't anywhere near as successful as the brand had hoped. That goes for the makeup side of the brand, but even more so for the skincare line. Reviews for the skincare line were at best mixed, but quite often people's thoughts on the products were outright negative. Hyram being one of the most trusted voices amongst Gen Zs when it comes to skincare, what they should be buying, what they shouldn't be buying, and what should not be touching their skin. His negative opinion of Morphe 2's products was a huge blow for the brand, seen as they were deliberately trying to target a Gen Z audience and trying to transition their YouTube popularity over to TikTok. Hyram, along with many dermatologists, are pretty much arguably who made CeraVe as popular as they are today. When someone has the power of making brands go viral, they also have the power to destroy brands. And even outside of popular names in the skincare world being disappointed in the products, plenty of consumers also weren't blown away by Morphe 2's attempt at skincare. Many felt that although the products were affordable and nicely packaged, they also felt that the formulas were so basic, and the results were nothing special. So many consumers were also unhappy about the strong fragrances in many of the products, and others complained of having adverse reactions, particularly to the face mask. You have huge skinfluencer voices, plus consumer reviews, just talking shit about this brand. It's not gonna go well. It's not gonna go well. It also didn't help that Charli and Dixie D'Amelio only ever seemed to promote the makeup side of the brand. Morphe too didn't seem too interested in getting the faces of the brand to push the skincare side of things at all, which seems like an odd choice given that Morphe wanted so badly to break into the growing skincare market. And to be honest, overall the brand didn't seem to push the skincare side very hard at all, doing far less marketing compared to the makeup side of Morphe too. It's almost like skincare was just an afterthought for them, which might also explain why their product formulations were so lackluster. It kind of feels like Morphe just thought that because they were a big name in the makeup game at the time, they could just release any old shit and they'd do well. They didn't really care about skincare, they just wanted to cash in on this growing skincare market. When the skincare line launched, the director of influencer relations said it was only natural that we move into skincare because it's a booming industry. She didn't say about how passionate they were about skincare or give any emotional or sympathetic reason for wanting to start a skincare line or how key skincare is to makeup prep, nothing like that, nothing like that. There was nothing for consumers to relate to. Morphe wanted to make money and thought skincare would be an easy way to do that. Unluckily for them, most consumers saw right through this and knew that this was just a cash grab. What also confuses me about this is the reason Morphe worked on YouTube is because they were a makeup brand who were working with some of the biggest makeup names at the time. When it came to TikTok, they were trying to launch skincare and didn't work with any skincare influencers who were huge at the time. They worked with dancers and singers. It just seemed like everything from the choice of influencers to the products just seemed like a second thought and like something they could quickly bash out real quick. So what went wrong? Oh my God. Well, when Morphe launched their new sub-brand, they were hoping that it would become like the next Gen Z it brand. And obviously that never happened. And there are a lot of reasons for why Morphe 2 failed to take off in the way the brand had hoped. Some speculation, some cold hard facts. Looking at the products, the reviews, the reception, we can kind of tell that Morphe 2 skincare failed because of the underwhelming product quality, the lack of any real differentiation from the plethora of similar brands on the market, and perhaps worst of all, a lack of authenticity. And the makeup side of Morphe 2 suffered from the same problems. Gen Z consumers are generally much more demanding in what they expect from a brand, and authenticity is one of the biggest expectations that they have. They tend to trust smaller, independent creators over large corporate brands and influencers who feel like they have sold out. Morphe 2 failed to deliver on authenticity, particularly as many found it confusing that Morphe, a brand that was all about bold, high glam makeup, full coverage foundations, and vibrant eyeshadow palettes, would then release a sub-brand marketed at clean, minimalistic, your skin but better type of aesthetics. It just didn't seem genuine. It was too big a departure from what they were known for. The partnership with the D'Amelios as the face of the brand also failed to generate the same kind of buy-ins as Morphe's previous influencer collaborations, and Morphe themselves are partly to blame for that. The controversies surrounding the influencers they collaborated with, as well as the failed product launches and the way in which they parted ways, was all very public and very messy. It put a lot of people off influencer marketing in general and created a massive distrust in both Morphe and the kind of business practices that they were using. As I mentioned earlier, one of Morphe 2's problems was that it failed to differentiate itself from competitors. The minimal, dewy, Gen Z friendly makeup trend was already being dominated by brands like Glossier, Rare Beauty, and Milk Makeup. Morphe 2's products weren't innovative enough to stand out amongst these brands. These are brands who had a real solid personality. Morphe 2's personalities were the influencers that they hired to advertise their brands, you know? The failure of Morphe 2 was a major issue for Morphe and their parent company, Forma Brands, which was hit hard by a number of underperforming brands under its ownership. Back in 2019, Morphe had achieved revenues of around 500 million for the year. Their massive popularity and impressive growth led to the private equity investment that same year, during which Morphe was valued at $2.2 billion. The brand sales had grown 300% between 2017 and 2020 thanks to their success with influencer marketing. The company had also been expanding their brick and mortar stores across the world, and at the start of 2020, they had around 50 stores in the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, with plans to expand in the coming years. Unfortunately, this was the peak for Morphe, and it would be all downhill from this point onwards. The influencer controversies hurt sales initially, then the pandemic hit, reducing sales even further, and then the changing trends were impacting the sales of the original brand throughout the years. Morphe 2 was supposed to boost the company's sales and keep them relevant. This plan clearly did not work out, and the failure was disastrous for their parent company, Forma Brands. Forma Brands had been set up by the owners of Morphe back when things were doing well, and the new company was created to act as an incubator of new and innovative brands. At least that was the idea, right? But they were also involved with Bad Habit Beauty with Emma Chamberlain as global ambassador and creative director, as well as Ariana Grande's Rem Beauty, which she owned but licensed out to Forma Brands to handle product development, manufacturing and marketing, as well as Jaclyn Hill's first hairy lipstick brand. None of the new brands took up in the way Forma had hoped. Emma Chamberlain left Bad Habit Beauty after just a year when the brand failed to make even half the projected revenue. Rem Beauty failed to stand out amongst a long list of celebrity-backed beauty brands, and Morphe 2 failed for the variety of reasons we've discussed. The original Morphe brand was, sorry, I got really itchy bit here. The original Morphe brand was also struggling. It had always been the biggest earner for Forma Brands, but by the end of 2021, Morphe's revenue had dropped to $295 million, significantly lower than it had been just 2 years previously. On top of that, the failures of their new ventures, leaving Forma in a very worrying position. At the start of 2023, I still remember this like it was yesterday actually. Oh, it wasn't too long ago. Many of Morphe's employees were kind of caught off guard by the very abrupt closure of all of their US stores. This led to very public criticism by employees who claimed that there had been no communication, a lack of general respect for the employees, and the way Morphe dealt with the closures. Employees reported coming into work on one day and just being told that they didn't have a job anymore. No notice or anything, just that it would be their last day at the store. They also claimed that they received very little in way of severance packages, and that Morphe wasn't even honest with the customers. They had apparently put up signs on the windows of the store saying that they were closed for refurbishment, when in reality they were never reopening. A week later, Morphe's parent company, Forma Brands, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, citing debts of over $800 million, and not long after that, the brand started abruptly closing their stores outside of the US, in the same shady manner they had done the first time round. These financial issues impacted Morphe too because prior to bankruptcy, Forma had started pulling resources from all of their other brands other than the original Morphe. So Morphe 2, already struggling to gain traction, started receiving less investment and promotion, and unsurprisingly, it gradually faded away almost entirely. The skincare line has almost completely disappeared. There have been no announcements to say the range was being stopped. However, products just kind of stopped being stocked. If you search for the skincare products on the US Morphe website, the only thing that comes up is their Aura Blur Pore Perfecting Stick, which is really more makeup prep as we discussed. And although the UK version of the site lists 7 different skincare products, only one of them, the detox mask, is in stock. None of the others have been in stock for some time now. The makeup side of Morphe 2 is a similar story. There are still a handful of Morphe 2 products mixed in with the rest of Morphe's original range, but there isn't even a separate section on the website for Morphe 2. It seems like Morphe 2 has been allowed to just quietly die. They aren't releasing new products, they aren't marketing the brand. Morphe 2's Instagram page last posted in July of 2024, whereas the main Morphe page is still updated on a regular basis. So Morphe 2 is basically gone now, and it doesn't look like they'll be making a comeback anytime soon. All the focus seems to be on steadying the original Morphe brand's performance and potentially returning it back to its previous success. But that seems unlikely in today's market. Consumers have mostly moved on from Morphe. I guess in the same way they moved on from Urban Decay, right? That used to be huge. Is it still huge? Consumers really being put off by the brand's controversies, questionable business practices, and generally underwhelming product lines. When Forma Brands filed for bankruptcy, they were bought out for just $690 million. That was for all the brands under Forma's umbrella. Considering that Morphe alone was worth $2.2 billion just a few years earlier, it's safe to say that Morphe's value has nosedived in recent years. So with Morphe 2 already gone, the only remaining question is, how long will it be before the original Morphe brand goes the same way?